How did Liu Bang, a lowly son of a peasant who was well into his 40s by the time he raised his flag of rebellion, go about winning? This video will focus on this question, from when he starts his life in his village to becoming the first emperor of the Han Dynasty. Liu Bang was born Liu Ji in 256 BC, towards the end of the Warring States period, which would only end in 221 BC with the unification under Qin Shi Huang. We know little of Liu Bang until we meet him in his 30s, like many other significant figures in history. Coming from the small village town Sishuiting in the geographic region of the former state of Chu, which was conquered in the unification, the records of the grand historian writer Sima Qian describes him as charismatic, generous and forbearing, but he had little interest in education or work. Throughout his life, his actions and dealings with those around him would speak to this. The first evidence we have of his greatest talent, that of befriending influential people, starts in his hometown of Sishuiting and his local county office, of whom many members he befriends, and they make him the local constable. And one of these capable men at the local county office, Xiang Yu, would eventually become his interior minister, one of the most capable men of his era. On a trip to provide his mandatory labor duty in the capital of Xianyang, in the area of modern-day Xi'an, Liu Bang was said to have witnessed a procession of the emperor himself in one of his tank-like carriages, and this was said to have impressed him. After returning to his hometown, a grand family was moving into the area and held a banquet for the local gentry. To attend required gifts of at least 1,000 coins. Liu marches confidently in and takes a seat, without a single coin in his pocket. The father of this family was impressed by Liu in conversation and eventually offered his daughter in marriage. Perhaps none of this would be known to us if not for his subsequent actions. Now in his 40s, in 209 BC, Liu Bang begins to step into history. As local constable in Sishuiting, it was his responsibility to escort convicts to the capital for their mandatory service. Ironically enough, to work on the tomb of the first emperor whose dynasty he was to play a part in toppling. Whilst on this march to the capital, Liu Bang encounters serious issues. Either some convicts escaped or they were delayed. In either case, knowing that under Qin or prisoner escape or labour delay was punishable, Liu Bang frees the remaining prisoners and on Mount Mangdang eked out a living off the wilds of the mountainside. And this is where he enlists the help of former butcher and the man who was to become his right-hand man, Fan Kuai. He eventually distinguished himself as a capable general and fought many battles for Liu Bang, who rewarded him with promotions to higher ranks each time. Liu Bang always rewarded loyalty. Many incidences like this are shown in the 2012 series Kingswar. Xiao Hoying, his eventual general, is injured in a fight with Liu Bang, and the county magistrate finds out about this incident and orders an investigation. Under Qin law at the time, Liu Bang would be punished severely because he was an officer, not a civilian, especially given that a sword was used in the incident. Xiao Hoying, the injured person, lied and said that he had accidentally injured himself. Later, someone reported Xiao Hoying for making this false statement, so Xiao Hoying is arrested, flogged and imprisoned. He still, however, covers up for Liu Bang. In the TV show, he is shown as paying for the treatment of Xiao Hoying's injury. He turns an enemy into an ally, a repeated pattern throughout his life. People aren't drawn to him because of who he is, they become loyal because of a shared mutuality they have. One might recall the prisoner's dilemma. In this case, as in many others, Liu Bang always chooses to cooperate, and his allies do as well. On any of these occasions, were any participant to choose defection, Liu Bang may never have ended up as the first Han emperor. And now joining up with multiple larger rebellions springing up as a result of former states reasserting themselves, especially in the southern former state of Chu, Liu Bang joins General Xiang Liang, the uncle of XiangYu, his eventual ally and nemesis at the Battle of Dingtao. After this battle, Liu Bang was made Marquis of Wu'an and tasked with the unfavourable job of leading an army into Guangzhong, the Qin heartland. Unfavourable inasmuch as Liu Bang would be seen to be the one taking down the dynasty, whereas in fact they were lame ducks after the Battle of Julu, which happened the year before in 207 BC. In 206, Liu Bang reaches Guangzhong and the heartland of Shenyang, the imperial capital of Qin Dynasty, founded by the reformer Xiangyang. Ziying, the third emperor of Qin, powerless ruler, surrendered this city without resistance. Now he has the whole city, the vulnerable capital, at his fingertips and an army beside him. Liu Bang could have done anything, but under the advice of XiangYu, whose grandfather served 3 generations of the Han Dynasty, the former Han, not the one Liu Bang led, they leave the whole place untouched. Troops were forbidden from mistreating the population and looting. Order was quickly restored in the city. Liu Bang in this way earns the respect of the Guangzhong population, a key historical territory from which the unifying Qin dynasty had arisen. It is here Liu Bang begins to project the idea of him being the moral leader. Now, wishing to nip the threat of his former ally in the bud, Xiang Yu invites Liu Bang to a feast at Hongmen, an infamous incident in Chinese history. It is not Xiang Yu himself who plans to have the deed done, but his advisor, who wishes to do it in plain view of all as part of an accident in a sword dance. Here all the friendships Liu Bang gained over the years play a part in saving his life. His greatest advisor, Jiang silently slips outside of the feast hall at the beginning of the sword dance, sensing danger, and hurriedly gets Fan Kuai, his butcher henchman from his hometown, who arrives at the banquet in full armour, shouting at Xiang Yu for intending to murder his leader. Embarrassed by Fan Kuai's accusation, and not knowing that his advisor, Fan Zeng, his adopted father, had in fact ordered the murder, Xiang Yu ordered an end to the sword dance and rewarded Fan Kuai for his bravery. Liu Bang escaped Xiang Yu's camp with a feigned bathroom break and led his army westward. Enraged by this escape, Xiang Yu then sacks the capital Shenyang and burns the Erfeng Palace. It was here that most of the damage to literature takes place, in the so-called burning of the books, for which the first Qin dynasty emperor is held responsible. Xiang Yu proclaims himself hegemon king of Western Chu and split the former Qin Empire into 18 kingdoms for his ally. For reasons lost to history, Xiang Yu, probably because he always was motivated by restoring his state and lacked a positive vision, does not take up power in Shenyang, the seat from which everything could be ruled. He moves back to territorial Chu, his southeastern homeland. He allots to Liu Bang the isolated Bashu region, modern-day Sichuan Basin and Upper Han River Valley. It was then a little-known place, only incorporated into the stream of Chinese history under the Qin, and used for exiling prisoners. It was in fact a highly fertile region and safe defensive base. As he went south over the Qinning Mountains, Liu Bang destroys the mountain roads behind him under the advice of XiangYu to convince Xiang Yu that he was no longer a threat and would not return. This also had the added benefit of deterring defectors. And it was here in the Sichuan Basin that Liu Bang gathers even more talent. His eventual head general Han Xin, who was at that time a lowly ranking officer, only recently recruited into Liu Bang's army, and it is Xiao He who introduces Liu Bang to the officer. He articulates his plan for military unification and how to go about it. Impressed, Liu Bang formally assigns Han Xin to the supreme commandership of his army. Not only is Liu Bang a man of discernment, he also identifies men of discernment. From here, it was far from smooth success, as Liu Bang suffered many defeats. For example, now, after building up his base in the southwest in Sichuan, and XiangYu occupied with rebellious vassals in the east, Liu Bang with 500,000 soldiers takes the opportunity to attack XiangYu's capital in Pengcheng. They take XiangYu's capital with only minimal resistance, but only 30,000, led by a returning XiangYu, retake the city. Liu Bang only manages to make a desperate escape with a handful of mounted bodyguards, including all of his hometown allies, who secure his children's escape. One can make whatever judgment they like about Liu Bang's character. The historian Sima Qian, probably biased against the ruling Liu family with good reason, records that Liu Bang pushes his own children out of his carriage during this incident 3 times in order to escape XiangYu's men. At the same time, it is clear that many people, like Xiao Huiying, even with him during this event, feel such strong allegiance to him that they would die fighting for him. They always put their lives in danger for him, and on no occasion in the historical record is Liu Bang abandoned or betrayed. By the way, this Sima Qian records of the Grand Historian, recorded around 130 years later in 90 BC. It is the main source for much of our records of this time. Liu Bang uses many strategies to defeat XiangYu, not just military. In 204, trapped in the city of Xingyang, the Han army was running short of supplies and becoming desperate. Liu Bang listened to another of his talented followers, Chen Ping's suggestion to give him 40,000 catties of gold in order for them to bribe XiangYu's men to spread rumours that Fan Zeng, his adopted father, had the intention of betraying XiangYu. XiangYu, never the master of strategy, believes this and dismisses Fan Zeng, his most capable advisor, who had, at the feast of Honmeng, attempted to have Liu Bang killed. This allows Liu Bang to escape XiangYu's greater force, and it is clear that from this time onwards the tide turns. Against Liu Bang's ever-expanding network of allies, XiangYu's army now begins to suffer more defections and shortages of supplies, and XiangYu has little choice but to request to make peace with Liu Bang, and releases Liu Bang's family members who had been held hostage by him. Therefore, the Chu of XiangYu and the Han of Liu Bang agreed to a ceasefire at the Treaty of Hong Canal, which divided China into east under the Han Dynasty of Liu Bang and the west under Chu XiangYu. What XiangYu hadn't fathomed was that Liu Bang's battle was for all the marbles. Their paths were different, right from the very start. As he took up the sword of rebellion at Mount Mangdang with the freed convicts, Liu Bang had been fighting for his life. XiangYu's fight was very different. He was fighting for the restoration of Chu, and he had done that. The divide made sense to him. The kingdoms behind the walls, divided into many states, had been a default for hundreds of years. To Liu Bang, such a stalemate made no sense. He could not have trusted that things would remain thus, and that XiangYu would not betray him. In the final betrayal in 203 BC, XiangYu was retreating eastward when Liu Bang and his many allies attacked him simultaneously from 3 directions. At the Battle of Gaisha, the one they wrote plays about, such as Farewell My Concubine, the heroically tragic figure of XiangYu makes his last stand. It was Liu Bang's name that we would come to know. Liu Bang's Han Dynasty would write the history. While both were men of Chu, China would not be made in the image of Chu. It was made in the image of the man who took it all, Liu Bang, who moved back to the capital that he had seen sacked and restored a nearby location. It was that master delegator, that late bloomer, that former constable of the village Shuiting who would win and become known to us as Han Gaozu. It would seem that everything was stacked against him. He started with 0 connections, so he built mutually beneficial relationships with skilled warriors, generals, and alliances with erstwhile enemies. He lacked refined learning, so he surrounded himself with the finest literati of his age. He had to rid himself of his king, XiangYu, so he wrote the history books.